Anyways, that's a really tough act to follow, but you'll be in good hands with one of my other absolute favorite policy wonks in British Columbia, Geoff Morrison, who will be sharing a presentation with us on understanding the economic impact that the upstream production of our natural resources, particularly natural gas, the impact that has on BC's economy. I was supposed to just introduce Karen Ogan, who was actually going to do the proper introduction. Unfortunately, Karen couldn't be here, and she said it's her regrets. I would also be remiss not to mention that in the last couple of years, we've seen a significant evolution in how major projects and even small projects, small investments accumulatively add up to a significant impact in the upstream economic numbers you'll be hearing from Geoff about in terms of how that's done. And that's been massive focus on partnership with Indigenous communities. We're starting to hear this expression, Indigenous LNG is Canadian LNG, and Canadian LNG is Indigenous LNG. And that's a really significant accomplishment that the sector has been able to advance. We're seeing that not just on the upstream, the midstream, but also on the export side. And of course, this last panel talked about mega projects. Those are the ones that make the headlines, that make the news, that, of course, there's a lot to celebrate, particularly with that first cargo coming out of LNG Canada earlier this summer. But it's also important, and Geoff will tell you more about it, to think about just the thousands and thousands of smaller activities, drilling of wells that need to take place, and the billions of dollars that have to be spent on a continuous basis to enable that supply to be there so that we can meet the domestic demand and the increasing international export market demand for our products. So I will then tell you a little bit about Geoff. So Geoff Morrison is the Director for British Columbia with the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers. He holds both bachelor's and master's degrees in economics from McGill University. His career includes significant roles such as General Manager of Global Public Affairs for BC and Vice President Hill and Knowlton. At CAPP, he's the Director for British Columbia. Early in his career, he spent 5 formative years in Calgary, the hub of Canada's oil and gas sector, before relocating to Victoria in 2001. And Geoff told me a funny anecdote a couple of years back, probably, that this is a tough town for this. There's a lot of people that need to hear about CAPP's work and the work of the sector and the businesses it represents. But Victoria itself, kind of difficult. So, I think the story was along the lines of once upon a time, maybe having some kind of signage out on his Victoria storefront and then deciding, no, you know what, this isn't the town for that. Let's avoid that controversy. But Geoff works tirelessly to ensure that the right information is at the hands of those who are making the decisions in an informed way. And if you ever get a chance to track him down, ask him to draw some charts, maps, and visual representations for you. He can do it upside down, and it is astounding the types of things you will learn from him. Thanks so much, Geoff. Please come up.
That way. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's really great to be here with a group of people who do care passionately about British Columbia and do care passionately about our futures together. Can I make this go? There we go. I do want to, before I get into my presentation, I'll follow up on something Fazia said and also something that Tim said. Competitiveness is so important on the world market. And I agree with Tim on his 3 points. We do need faster regulatory approvals. We do need to lift up First Nations, give them support, and we do need infrastructure. We need power lines, we need ports, we need pipelines. Okay, now for the real presentation. Great. So today I'm going to talk about 3 things quickly. I have a lot of graphs that are going to hopefully support what you heard over here. Number 1, CAPP has a new data center. So if you need information about the oil and gas industry, you need to go to CAPP's website and go in the data center. Most of the slides I'm going to present today are going to be from that data center. It's a powerful place to find information about the industry. Number 2 is today we've launched our iTOTEM natural gas supply chain and community contributions report. This is a fantastic report. It's an update to a report we did about 3 years ago. That first report found that $47 billion, sorry, not 47, 4.7, good number. Metric, was a metric number, metric cash, was spent in 4 years over northeastern BC. This with 2,400 suppliers in 140 communities, which is the really interesting part. This new study builds on that, gives us 7 years of data. And the last part, we're going to live demo a new piece of information. And so the call to action for this group is talk about the industry and how, and it's always that long-standing challenge we have is how do we convince the people in the lower mainland that the rest of the province is the economic driver? And that's such a difficult thing to demonstrate. I'm hoping this live interactive map is going to do that. So imagine Richard Zussman on election night, but this is not going to be about ridings. This is going to be about key indicators, economic indicators in communities across BC. So when this, we're going to live demo this after at the end of this, and hopefully it works, and then you'll be able to take what is produced. There'll be a QR code, you'll hit it with your phone, you'll download it, and then if you want, if you choose, you can send it to your followers and say, look what happens in my community. Or you can download another community and say, look what happens in your community. I think it's going to be a powerful way to start a conversation. Okay, I'm going to try and go really quick through some of the data. Sorry, I can't see them in front of me. I'm going to just do this. Hold on, I got to pay for coffee here. So some of this is boring but obvious, but also worth seeing. And so at CAPP, you like donut graphs. This is our thing right now, and I love them too. Canada is a small, open economy. We rely on trading to make our lives better, and we rely on foreign investment to make that happen. And so 2/3 of our economy runs on trade, 1/3 of it for exports and 1/3 of it for imports. I want to draw to your attention to the oil and gas industry. Oil and gas is Canada's #1 export, bar none, by a long shot. It's 21% of everything we export. 95% of the oil we export goes to the United States. 99% of our gas goes to the US. That is changing. I've got some good news on that. Okay, so next slide is another donut slide. This is BC. I don't have the exact same data set, but these are the top 5 BC exporters. And again, it's mining, forestry, oil and gas. 5 of those exports make up 45% of BC's exports. And that's really important. Most of that goes to the US with the exception of maybe copper and coal. Those don't go to the US, but the rest we're very dependent on the US. Why that's important is there's opportunities for us in Asia for natural gas and more for forestry. Whoops, sorry. So I've taken a look at this a little bit over time. And so these are the big 5, but also included in there salmon, because we're having salmon for lunch, and also really important. And our #1, our #2 export to, of all places, California, believe it or not, switches with electricity. The other one on there is electricity. The importance of this graph is to show that the value, this is value, the value changes with price. In prices, you can see natural gas, this is the blue one kind of midway up, it dropped off steeply. More natural gas was exported, but at a lower price. This also happened for forestry, which I think that's the top one. No, that's coal, excuse me. So we are price takers. It's really important, right? But the other important message here is it takes all of the above. We all need to be doing well for BC to be doing well. Okay, this is my favorite graph. I could spend an hour on this graph. There are a lot of surprises in this graph. This is BC's energy snapshot. And when we say energy, we don't mean electricity. We make that mistake all the time. What we mean is electricity, natural gas, oil, propane, liquids, biofuels, and eventually maybe hydrogen. The graph on the left is what we consume and where we get it. And some of that may surprise you. Only 17% of the energy we consume every day is electricity. Over 60% of it comes from hydrocarbons. And then biofuels is in there too, which really surprised me. I was surprised by that too. But the more surprising graph is the graph on the right, which shows we are a superpower, but not the superpower you think. We are a natural gas superpower. 90% of the gas we produce in this province leaves the province either to the US or the rest of Canada. And soon it will be going to, and it is now already, going to a new place. And that's a great opportunity. The other piece I'll mention quickly is, while talking about trade diversity, I'll mention Trans Mountain has expanded, and we've got someone speaking later on today about Trans Mountain. It's tripled its capacity. Most of that new capacity is now going to Asia. That's a fantastic story. And another best kept secret is Prince Rupert. In 2015, there was no propane going out of that. Today, propane is leaving from Prince Rupert, and Japan is getting 25% of their propane from Canada. That is a trade of diversification right there. So, number one thing, if you don't remember anything else, energy is more than electricity. We need to be smart about that in all the places that we do it. We heard about the grid and how it needs to be stable. It takes all the energy, all of the above. Okay, so here's the exciting, it's always a little disturbing when you can't see it. This is the big kind of like splashy shot. So the upstream oil and gas industry, not refining, not LNG, not any of that, is $14 billion in GDP contribution, a very high employment, 68,000 direct jobs. That's getting up there with forestry now, believe it or not. We used to be much smaller. Forestry was the big. There's reasons for that, I know, Kim. We can work on that together. But it gets back to the point. It takes all of us to be working. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. Very highly compensated. And so $189,000 is the typical wage in the upstream industry. Why is that important? The number one government resource revenue is income tax. People who get paid a lot, pay a lot of income tax. The number two income source is PST. People who are well paid buy more stuff. If you want to help the economy and you want to help the government, those things are important, in my mind. We are exceptionally productive as an industry. $1,064 in GDP from every hour worked in natural gas, which is 17 times bigger than the average. It is a high-tech industry. It is not a dinosaur industry. It is not low-tech. Talk more about that later. And then royalties. Right now, we're producing about 6.5 BCF a day of gas, and we're paying $672 million in royalties. Royalties go up and down with price. The higher the price, the more the percentage of royalties the government gets, and that will be important later in another slide. There you go. Okay, this is a stylized map of where our gas goes through, to and from. Western Canada Sedimentary Basin is in that box up on the left, and we send BC gas to West Coast, which is a pipeline system, the Foothills system, the Alliance system, and the mainline to Eastern Canada. Also note we import LNG in Eastern Canada, and it comes from the States. And you heard Christy Clark say, we have a lot of gas. We have lots and lots of gas. We're not going to run out anytime soon. I show all of this because that new box, LNG, is on the corner there, and that's really exciting for us. A couple quick slides about some of those bullets we saw. This is the percentage of GDP that oil and gas contributes. It is growing. It's obviously speaks for itself. The more this sector grows, the faster, the more GDP we get, the more royalties we get, the more jobs we have. That's all very clear. Next graph is simply the same graph with jobs. I think it's phenomenal that this industry is coming into its own today. Okay, so all of those slides, or most of those slides, are available on our website. Now I've got to I'm going to channel Don Wright here. If you aren't reading John Wright's Substack, Blindly Obvious, you need to do that. I'm stealing this line. The case for LNG was blindly obvious for me. We'll see if we convince you. So natural gas in Canada is a great resource, but the Americans are beating us at the game. And so this is a chart that shows natural gas production in Canada in red and the US in blue. Sometime in around 2008, 2009, the shale revolution came along. This was a very high-tech innovation. We learned how to drill wells horizontally in the ground. Doesn't sound like a big deal. It was super tough. That started to unlock a lot of gas in the States and potentially Canada. All of our gas exports go to the United States. We don't consume most of it's exports. When the US started becoming self-reliant, our big customer became our competitor. That was a challenge for us. We didn't grow for a decade or more. And then first LNG happens in the United States. What are we going to do with all this gas? They're going to export it. We're thinking about exporting it. Today we're doing that. We're a little slower on that. But the US is the largest. They went from no exports in 2016 and they're now the largest exporter of LNG in the world. A quarter of all the natural gas produced on this planet every day is from the US. Think about that for a minute. We probably have more than they do. We have great opportunity. Talked a little before about price. This is a very boring slide, but illustrative. Natural gas gets traded in hubs, and we heard about getting a better price, negotiate harder. It's hard to negotiate harder if the pipes aren't big enough. That's part of our challenge. We need to get more. Our southern neighbor is competing us. They're creating their own gas, and we don't have enough pipes to get there anyway. I want to draw, so the US trades around Henry Hub. If you listen to the radio in the morning, they'll quote a natural gas number. That's the number they're quoting. We don't care, it doesn't matter. What we care about is either ACO, which is in Alberta, or Station 2, and you'll see those numbers are dramatically smaller. And so when you're paying royalties based on price, it would be way better to get the Henry Hub price or an Asian price than the Canadian price that we're paying. And so we're kind of robbing ourselves there a little bit. Okay, LNG imports. And so all the red bars are Asian countries. We face them. We're looking at them. There's a great opportunity there. The little graph inside of a graph shows where all the primary energy comes from on the planet. You can see on the right, green is the renewables ramping up, but the red in the middle is also natural gas. Natural gas has more than doubled. It's 23% of the world need for primary energy, but still, coal is 25%. There is opportunity there. There is a lot of space for natural gas growth in the coming years. So what's our answer to that? It's BC's LNG exports facilities. Here they are all listed. And you can see now, instead of a square on the map, you now see the Montney, which is the big basin in BC, lots of gas. The Liard and the Horn River are not currently being developed, but have a lot of gas, maybe as much or more than the Montney. But right now, probably 95% or more of our natural gas is coming from the Montney. And Alberta is there as well. If you looked at all of those, and so I said earlier, BC's production is about 6.6 BCF a day in 2023. If we added up all of those projects, you would get to 6.62 billion cubic feet of natural gas. Imagine all those other stats I gave you about jobs, income, royalties, doubled. That's what this could mean for us as a province. Okay, we heard a little bit about the interest of emissions and what are we doing about it. And maybe we shouldn't be talking about hydrocarbons. I think that graph on slide 6 that showed the donut, our human well-being is connected to how much energy we consume. And there currently is not enough renewables to do that. We need to be strategic about our energy policy and smart about it, and we need to be honest about it as well. It does great things for what we consume, but also what we supply. If we are worried about where the globe's energy is coming from, I think this graph speaks volumes. It shows LNG projects compared by CO2 emissions. And the dotted line across the middle is the BC LNG GHG intensity benchmark, and all the blue are above it, and all the red are below it, and all the red ones are in BC, and all the blue ones are elsewhere. If you are going to choose LNG on the planet, and if you want to make the best choice with regard to emissions, our projects are the best. And that's why it's blindly obvious to expand LNG for us. Okay, where am I got to now? Now's the good part. Okay, a little bit more about our latest announcement. So we've been working on this with our members for quite a while, and so we tend not to think about the oil and gas industry as a big BC economic driver, because it's all in northeastern BC. It's all east of the Rockies, believe it or not. That's where it all happens. It happens in just 2 provincial ridings. And so our challenge is to convince people in all the ridings that live down in Vancouver that that's actually really good for the economy. And so one of the initiatives we did 3 years ago was to do a study about our supply chain study with the hope that we could demonstrate that it was a provincial impact. Now, for sure, northeastern BC is lifted the most, but I think I've made a case that the royalties are important, the income to the government is important, that the opportunity for us is real. So what we've done is we've created, and I'll demonstrate this second after I go through some stats, we've created these civics socials. And so the new report, which will show 7 years of data, will produce a mapped or an indexed to each community in BC, each provincial riding, and each federal riding. And so you'll be able to look up your community. Not every community is going to have oil and gas lift in it, let's be honest, but lots will, and it will create a key indicators for you. It will create a QR code, and you'll be able to snap that QR code and take that information with you. You can share it with your children, your mom and dad, and if you're so inclined, you can put it on Instagram and talk about it, and have a conversation with the people who think this is an industry that's not important to the province's well-being. Okay, so some of the high marks are, over 7 years, $10.8 billion has been spent with communities across BC. It's too small for me to read. Derek, I can't read this, it's too small. Well, I didn't bring the big one up. I'll just go in front. My fault for printing 4 to a page. I thought I was being environmental. Annual spending has changed from an average of $1.25 billion a year to $2.5 billion a year in this year. I also want to draw your attention to, is this on here? Boy, I can't see that. Oh, it's on the next page. Sorry. There is a metric too about the spend on Indigenous affiliated suppliers too, which is a really positive story. It's in 2 slides from now, I'll get to it. So that was for the 7 years. This is for the latest 3 years. We'll see that from 2022 to 2024, $6.1 billion of spend in northeastern BC, or in BC, sorry. That's up from 4.7, excuse me. But it's also got this great heat map, and it shows you where all those communities are and by relative size where they are. And so our interactive Richard Zusman map will allow you to go around, and we're going to demonstrate that in just a minute. And we can look at any community you want, and we'll do that in just a sec. And it also shows on the right the Indigenous communities that are participating as well. And so on the last slide that I'll share here today is, it shows on the bottom left, 13.6% of the supply chain between 2022 and 2024 was Indigenous spend. And that number is growing and outpacing the regular spend. And so we are seeing now what we have been trying to do in the last 10, 15, 20 years, or whatever the number is, to really think differently about the way we partner with Indigenous communities is now taking root. We're seeing those economic partnerships being lifted. And now I think that's really good for the community, it's really good for our community, it's really good for us as a province. And we're also seeing Indigenous communities taking a percentage of the royalties as well. I think that is all good news. It brings greater stability, and it helps drive that conversation about competitiveness, and competitiveness is about getting your permits quickly. Doesn't always have to be yes, but you need to have clarity. Speed is important. We are competing internationally, and we heard it a couple times. India doesn't care about where your molecule came from, they care about how much it cost. So we could be good, but we have to be competitive too. I'm not saying we don't be good. I'm saying we got to be doing both. Okay, Derek, are we gonna show this thing off? Okay, I'm gonna come in front because I can't see it. Okay, here I am. Imagine Richard Zusman with a beard. Sorry, I won't do that. Okay, so we want to know, what is the spend of the Lower Mainland? Get your phones out. You can look at this, $731.4 million, 205 communities spent, and 8% of it was with Indigenous. You can click on that, and that will go to your phone. You can customize what's on your phone. You can make it, you can choose your picture, you can stylize it in some ways, not a lot, but a little bit, and then you can save that to your phone, and now you can send that out, and you can talk about your community and how oil and gas impacts your communities. Or if you have a friend in another community, maybe you want to say, I've got a friend who's not here from Maple Ridge. Look up Maple Ridge, go send it there. Kamloops, we've got Kamloops here. Can we pull up Kamloops? I think we've got one for Kamloops. So you can look by economic region, which we just did. You can look by provincial riding, federal riding, and community. $4.1 million, 10 businesses. Again, part of the wider conversation about how the economy is about all the resources. We're all connected. It is an ecosystem. The economy is an ecosystem. We're trying to have that conversation. Okay, any other, who else want, whose community you want to look at? Let's look at Terrace. Let's look at, let's do Victoria. Okay, let's do Victoria. We're in Victoria, let's look at Victoria. $13.6 million, 20 businesses. Who would have thought? I live in Victoria. I always joke. I don't start the, when I'm at the Christmas party, I don't start with, hey, so what do you do? My typical answer is I work for a not-for-profit. Technically true. Oh, what do? Oh, we bring warmth into people's homes. But increasingly you will find that we are interconnected. And you will find that most people in this room probably heat their house with natural gas. On a cold day in January, 2/3 of the energy that heats your home comes from natural gas. It doesn't come from electricity. It could, but I take your mind back to the donut graph. It's more complicated than you think. Energy is really complicated. Okay, maybe do some more here. Prince George is a good one. So $112.5 million, 30 companies.
So Mayor, you can put your phone on the QR code right now. No pressure, but now you got to post it.
No.
So if you click now there, it's going to pop up. It'll be on your phone. After that.
There you go. So we're going to be having this all week. The 2 days that the show is happening, we've got a booth at the UBCM. We want you to come back and have a conversation with us. I've got a lot more graphs. I can draw a lot of maps. I can draw them upside down. I can draw them backwards. I'm really passionate about this. It is a great industry that has been too long a secret in British Columbia. It is really driving a huge amount of the economy, along with forestry and mining and agriculture and farming and all kinds of stuff. We need to make people aware of how our standard of living is dependent on how well our economy runs, and our economy runs on these things, and that's the point of today. Okay, if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Stay standing or maybe
Yeah.
join me here? I will. Okay, I think we're good. So any questions yet? You guys can sort of mull it over a little bit. Fantastic. Let's grab a question right here.
Wondering, as far as the data, this is a really great idea. Will it be updated quarterly, or how often will
What,
it
do you
be
think
updated?
we're made of money? No, this will be a point in time for those 3 years, and then probably another 3 years we'll update it again. It won't be, it's not a live database. This takes a lot. This was a big ask for my members because they're really busy. I've got to go and ask them to say, where did you spend your money? And it isn't not every single CAPP member there, so it's not a complete picture. It's a subset, but it's a pretty impressive set. It's probably north of 80% of production in BC is represented there, but it's not everything. And it is time consuming, and it is not difficult, but it is time consuming. So people are very driven to do their jobs efficiently. So we won't be updating it probably for a couple of years, but it is still a great product.
We've got time for one more question at least. Anyone behind me? Yes.
Thanks. Great presentation, Geoff. David Malinsky from the North Pacific Green Corridor. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing the industry right now to be able to realize the opportunity to supply LNG and all the other markets?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So we've had a lot of focus on major projects, which is very welcome. I have to admit I'm not used to getting positive attention from governments in this country, but it's great. So those LNG decisions on the coast are fantastic. I will remind people there are two ends to the pipe, and northeastern BC is the other end of the pipe. And so while we need those approvals on the coast, for every BCF of gas, it's about 100 new wells, 110 new wells a year. There's several dozen decisions need to be made on each one of those. I don't need one decision faster. I need thousands of decisions faster every year in northeastern BC. And to their credit, the BCER, which used to be the Oil and Gas Commission, which is a great innovation, single window regulator, independent, is doing a good job. But we do need to think about some of those decisions. Do they need to be made? Can we make them quicker? Because investment, as a country, we rely on foreign investors. And when we delay, we create uncertainty. And we saw we missed one LNG window. We're hopefully going to hit this one. Oops, sorry. Yeah, probably number one is permitting speed in the Northeast.
Thanks so much.